This is so cool.
So this is Taco Tuesday Girl.
Hey, I know her. This is not boring. I agree with that.
My
Long form, unedited conversation. I love it.
Guys, welcome back to Insanely Chill. Thanks for tuning back in. Today is a little bit of a different episode. I know, I don't know if you've been listening since the start of the relaunch of this show. You may know that the reason why I did this is to start talking more about not only training stuff and, you know, what's going on in my life athletic-wise, but also business stuff. We did an episode where we chatted with the CEO of Liquid Death. I really enjoyed that. And now this one is probably going to be the most business-focused episode we've done because our guest today is Shaan Puri. He is the host of my favorite business podcast. It's called My First Million, and I listen to pretty much every single episode. Him and his co-host Sam Parr, they just talk about, they're both accomplished entrepreneurs, and they talk about entrepreneurship, but you know, from a pretty grounded place, I think. And so he hit one of our producers up, or I forget how we got in touch, but
his producer hit up me.
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
And said, I'm going to be in Sean's going to be in LA, and so we set this up, and so he's going to come in and talk about, you know, we're going to chat about business, and so if that interests you, definitely stay tuned because he's a really smart guy, and I'm pumped to talk with him. And if it doesn't interest you, then maybe keep listening because maybe you'll get something out of it. Who knows? You'll learn a little something. So yeah, that being said, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you follow the socials, Insanely Chill Pod, and leave us a review and like this video on YouTube. And I appreciate you, and enjoy. All right, cheers again. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
Great to meet you. I'm a big My First Million fan. I probably found you guys like middle of last year. I was training for an ultra marathon, and so which was a trail run. So like I would train in the mountains of Malibu where there's zero service. So I would just download like 5 episodes.
Yeah, the mountains of Malibu were the toughest.
The mountains of
train.
the rough mountains of Malibu. Exactly. But I would just download 5 episodes of your podcast, and then.
But how'd you even know about it? Like, what
think
put it on your radar?
I always see it on the Spotify like recommended page.
Oh, okay.
So
Top of the charts, baby.
the top of the charts, exactly. And I'm like, who are these guys? And so, yeah, I really like it, but I like it because I listen to other business podcasts, and I feel like a lot of, I don't know, startup Silicon Valley talk is like very, I don't know, higher level, philosophical, like doesn't feel accessible. And I like that you guys talk about entrepreneurship from a more grounded, accessible way. Like it feels like when I'm listening and you guys just spout off ideas, I'm like, I could do any of these.
Right.
And it's the first I've heard like that.
Yeah, that actually goes, the credit for that to Sam, because Sam is like, I mean, this is the best way possible. Sam's like a simpleton. He's like a simple dude. So like if you throw something complicated at him,
Wow, Sam just caught a stray there.
Sam's like got a real basic mind.
yeah,
Just a
he's super
real-
basic,
He's a
but
simple
in the
guy.
best way possible. Because he's like, it's like a bullshit wall. And Silicon Valley just throws tons of like jargon, bullshit, like crazy concepts at you, and they almost they don't make any sense. And then you're like, I guess I'm just not smart enough to get them. Sam has the other like response where he's just like, that sounds weird, dude. I don't know. Like, that's dumb. Like, what do you mean? Why don't you just charge money for it? Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he'll just break it down into much more simple, like, I don't know, like basics. And so that kind of became where we swerved, was towards stuff that me and him got along on, which was like, yeah, you could just like, his first business was a hot dog stand. Mine was a sushi restaurant. So
That's
it's like,
what I'm saying.
we
love
started
that.
with really basic stuff. Yeah, now we live in Silicon Valley and other stuff, but like, that's not the pedigree, that
Yeah.
we came from. So
Yeah, it feels like when I listen to some other startup podcasts that are in, based in Silicon Valley or whatever, and talking about startups there and tech and whatever, it's always like boy geniuses and raising, Series C raises and all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, I'm not in that world anymore.
And
I used to live in Silicon Valley, but I don't. I'm building a podcast studio in LA. It's like completely different, and we're bootstrapping it. It's like
one of our ideas.
nobody talks about bootstrapping businesses.
One of the ideas on the pod was like, dude, finding a studio to do your podcast in, if you're like, you know, if you don't have this, like this is dope, obviously, but like most people don't have this. And we were like, dude, why isn't there just like a van that'll just like, you say, hey, I'm doing a pod with this guest, like just a studio van that will just roll up, and like you can kind of make a business out of these sort of like these assets where like it's not that expensive to buy these vans, either like a U-Haul van or whatever, and to kit it out with a couple of microphones and cameras. And so it's like,
yeah, write that down. We should do that.
I think you can make the numbers work, and it's not going to be huge, but like a lot of the people who listen to our shit, they're not trying to make $1 billion. They're trying to be like, cool, like I don't like my job. I kind of want to, like, I want to be financially free or whatever. You know, I want to make money, but I'm not, like, I don't need to change the world with my idea. In fact, the more 100%. Accessible the idea, the more interesting. And that's kind of like a little random niche that we carved. But before we even do that, I mean, like, I gotta like take this in. Is this how the YouTubers do it? This is how the YouTubers live here in LA? Like, is like Logan Paul next door? Is this like what a YouTuber's life is like?
No, Logan Paul is in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Logan Paul is not in California.
Yeah, I think to evade taxes.
Yes.
That's what the real YouTubers do.
Right.
They go down because they're making that much money.
Who are you guys? What are you guys? You're this guy's sitting like directly behind a camera with the microphone. I have no idea what he's gonna do. This is amazing.
This is Zach. He's one of our producers at TMG Studios.
But you got the mic, so you're live.
I'm live. I
I
run the tech for this show, and then I'm a producer for one of the other podcasts on the network.
Trillionaire Mindset, which your viewers might like.
Yeah.
First million.
Yeah, have you ever seen that?
I saw the title of it. Yeah, because we make this joke on the pod because there's like these Instagram accounts that are like, you just got to have that millionaire mindset, that hashtag grind set. You got to be on that mindset. And I'm like, what are these guys rapping about? And so we joke about the hashtag trillionaire mindset, hashtag grind set.
I do notice you guys have been putting in effort to make your YouTube better.
Yeah, because we're just like, dude, how do you grow a podcast? Like, our podcast has grown.
How big is it now?
So it's now, how do you do it? Because I usually throw out the vanity metric, the fake metric, which is like downloads. Like, oh, we did 25 million downloads this year. But like, anybody knows that's kind of a BS number because it's just based on how many episodes you put out. Like, the real number that matters is listeners per episode.
Okay.
Right? That's like the one I care about. Because I'm like, there's this one tech podcast that this guy does like every day for like 5 minutes. And he's like, yeah, we get like 1 million downloads a month. It's like, oh, cool. But like, you have 5,000 subscribers and you're just pumping out like tons of things and it just auto downloads in their phone. So that's not really the real thing. So yeah, we get like something like 20, 25 million downloads a year, but the listeners per episode is now, I want to say like 150,000.
That's awesome.
Which was my goal for year 1 of the podcast. It's now year 3 of the podcast. So, you know, like I kind of, you know, overestimated how fast I'd be able to grow this thing.
I mean, it takes a lot longer.
Podcasts don't really grow.
They don't. It's so hard.
But they're super sticky. And so like once you get somebody to listen to your podcast, they don't really stop. And they trust you at this level that's like just way different. So like you know, you'll meet somebody who's got a TikTok following and they'll be like, yeah, I got like 2 million followers on TikTok. But I don't think that's really the right way to look at it. I think you got to like, there's like an equation. It's like, you know, your like the audience value is like, you know, the followers times how much they actually give a shit about you times like, you know, the maybe like the frequency that you reach them. So like you might get TikTok followers, but you're not showing up in their feed that much, or they don't really know anything about you, versus a podcast where you're like in their ears for 2-3 hours a week. They feel like they're your best friend, right? I'm sure you get this all the time where you meet people and they know so much about you. They kind of feel like they hang with you all the time. And therefore, you know, that's like, that turned out to be really valuable. So for me with the podcast, that turned out to be really valuable from like we could talk about like business stuff. Like that turned out to be a good business move, even though that wasn't the intention. I just started it for fun. Like I didn't.
Because you wanted to talk about business or what?
Well, I had sold my company, and so I wanted to do something, right?
Yeah.
When you sell a company, they're like, all right, great, your earnout is 3 years. It's like, okay, cool. I'm not gonna like. They kind of know, and you kind of know. I'm not gonna like give it my full all. For, you know, like I sold for a reason.
Like I built the fucking company. I'm kind of done.
If I wanted to work hard, I would have just kept the company. Like like at this point. So but they kind of know, right? So. But there's a problem, which is that as you're earning out the deal, you do want to get the check. So you can't just go start another company. That's the only thing I knew how to do was go start another company. So I was like, all right, what can I do that's creative and fun? That feels like creating something, but won't violate my agreement with, like we sold to Twitch. So it's like, you know, won't violate my agreement with Twitch. And so I was like, oh, I can do a podcast. Sounds like super harmless. Nobody here will care if I have a podcast. And so I used to just dip out in the middle of the day, go record the podcast, and then like come back. And they were like, oh, that's awesome. You're being a creator. You're really like, that's what Twitch is all about, empowering creators, right? So there was no like issue there. So I just needed something to do. And I wrote a doc, like you have this Google Doc here, but like I wrote a doc like this, like a 1-pager that was my plan. And my plan literally was like, my plan is to record this podcast. I think if my calculations are correct, I'll lose $15,000 this year, like just paying for the production and editing and all that. And nobody will really listen to it. Maybe my mom and a few others, but like podcasts are just this hack where you can invite someone to be a guest on your pod and they'll show up. Yeah, and like where they wouldn't meet you just to meet you.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I know all these people in Silicon Valley. I have no excuse. I have no reason to hang out with them, but I know they're awesome. I know if I hung out with them, we'd enjoy it. But like, I don't drink coffee even. So I'm like, what am I going to invite these people to that's like some excuse to hang?
Yeah.
So the podcast was literally just supposed to be that. And now it's like, you know, whatever. It's like in the top 10 on the business podcast and like, you know, makes good money. And we spun off 3 different businesses from it. So now it's become a whole thing.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Raycon. This time of year, everyone's talking about making big changes, which is all well and good, but sometimes it's a little harder than it seems, isn't it? I made the New Year's resolution last year to read like 10 books or something, and I read, I think, like 3. So that was tough. This year, I'm going to try and read 50. So far, I read 0. I've actually found that the smallest changes to your routine can make the biggest impact. You don't have to break the bank to make a big deal purchase. Even the smallest things can be a part of a big change if it's something you use every day, like my Raycons. Raycon is premium audio at the perfect price point, so you can build great habits without breaking the bank. As you know, I'm gearing up for my Ironman triathlon, and I love training with my Raycons. I can't work out without them. They last forever and get me through those hours of grueling training with ease. Whether you're looking for a pair of everyday earbuds, low-latency gaming headphones, or a speaker with a battery that will last all night at your next party, Raycon's got you covered. And yes, Raycons start at half the price of other premium audio brands. Even if you know you'll love your Raycons as much as I do, Raycon wants to make sure you feel great about your purchase. They offer buy now, pay later options. Every purchase has an easy and free return guarantee. Need to change the song or adjust the volume, but your phone is all the way in the other room? You can control all audio functions just by tapping the earbuds. Choose to be totally immersed and block out outside noise with Raycon's noise isolation feature, or use the awareness mode feature to listen to your music or podcasts while also hearing what's going on around you. Ready to buy something small with a big impact? Go to buyraycon.com/insane today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/insane to score 15% off. Buyraycon.com/insane. How'd you meet Sam? Or how did you like shoot
Sam is like a hustler. So Sam cold emailed me many years ago.
He knows how to email? Simple guy.
Big on email. Big email guy, to be honest. So he emails me and he's like, hey, Shaan, dude, heard great things about you. I'm like, I've never even heard of this guy, right? So I'm like, heard what from who? But instantly I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of flattered. Like, I don't get most emails like this.
Right.
He's like, heard great things, dude. Can't wait to meet sometime. Hey, listen, so I'm Sam. I'm hosting this conference and it's coming up and it's got all these great speakers and I need to host a dinner. I heard your office is amazing. You want to host the dinner? You can join and you'll meet all these great speakers. Just give me the venue for free. And our office in San Francisco was like baller. And so I was like, okay, sure. So I just met Sam through that. He kind of like conned me into like letting him host this huge event at my office and like, you know, had 50 people over. And, but during that thing, I was like, who is this guy? And so I got to know him there. And that was right before he started The Hustle, which was his company. And so then I kind of like, we were in like sounds kind of lame, but like a mastermind together where you meet once a month and you sort of are like, it's like founder therapy. You're like, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's what's not going well. And it's the only place a founder of a company can really go say, here's what's not going well. Cause like, you can't say that to investors. If you say that to your employees, they kind of freak out a little bit.
Right.
You can't say it to customers. They're like, oh, I don't want to be associated with this. Like, it sounds like it's not going so well. So this is like the only place where you can be like, yeah, this shit's not working. And other people are like, oh, I've been there. Yeah, try this. Or they'll just ask you 5 questions. And as you talk it out, you're like, oh, I guess it's not so bad after all.
And
so
you guys would do that together?
Me and Sam did that for like years. And then before we even started the podcast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how I knew him. And then when I started the podcast, I was like, oh, no one's going to listen to this. But I was like, well, I want people to listen. Sam's got his email newsletter, The Hustle, had I think 1 million subscribers at that time. And so I was like, dude, you have 1 million subscribers, but you have no audio content. Why don't you do a podcast? He's like, too much work, not enough money, blah, blah. I was like, cool, I'm doing it. I'll pay for it. I'll do it. And I'm going to really try. Will you just be my publisher? Like, you distribute it. I'll do the content. We'll split it all 50-50. So that's how it started.
Okay.
He wasn't even on it at that time.
Okay.
And then just randomly one Friday, I was like, yo, you come in here and you be my guest because somebody, is out or whatever. And we started riffing. I think this is kind of how your thing is with Noel, where it's like instantly you're like, oh, okay, this chemistry is good. And I always had this theory that like people come to a podcast for the information, but they stay for the banter. And so, and tech podcasts, they're always so dry.
Yeah.
So when I knew that me and Sam had a little bit of banter, I was like, oh, this is, as Sam says, like, we're a dwarf amongst midgets. Like, we're going to be more entertaining than the average tech podcast.
Right.
Well, the bar's not that high,
Right.
but it was working. And so we just like stuck with that, and that took off.
I did think it was really interesting when I was listening to My First Million for the first time, and then you guys started talking about Sam founding The Hustle, and I was like, what the fuck? I read that every single morning. I had no idea.
Right.
Which was just a funny like realization. And I love that newsletter. I still read it. It's fucking awesome. And you started one for crypto stuff?
Yeah. So I last year I was like, oh, Sam's business was great. Again, I was kind of making fun of him about it when he started it because I was like, oh, you're going to do an email newsletter? Like, where's the business part? Like, what do you mean? And he was like, no, I think this can be big, and I think this can be a big business. And sure enough, he ended up selling it for tens of millions of dollars and did really well. And so saw that whole thing play out again from before he started the idea to after. And then I've been really interested in crypto, and I was like, okay, well, what if I just did the hustle for crypto? And it was literally like as simple as that. And because I had seen him do it like month after month in those masterminds, I knew the whole blueprint. I knew like what goes wrong. I knew how he fixed it. I knew all those things. And so I just like did that. And so we did it. And then, we did it we launched about a year ago, and then we just recently sold the company. So it went really well. It grew pretty fast. So we grew it to like 250,000 subscribers and a couple million in revenue. And then we decided to sell it to these other guys who are awesome and go on to the next project.
Was it hard to find like writers, and like how did you even start doing that in the beginning?
It's not that hard. I thought I would have to write it initially, but then I was like, it's a daily email. And I can't do anything like on a schedule like that. Like my body just like starts to reject it. So I was like, I have a business partner, Ben, and I was like, yo, Ben, like, okay, you're going to write it. And I teach like a writing course. Ben had helped me teach this thing to 1,000 people. So like he had sat through it 5 times just as a byproduct of helping me run it.
Okay.
So I was like, dude, you sat through this 5 times. If you can't write this thing by now, our course sucks.
Right.
Like, you should be able to do this. So right away he was writing it. And people were like, dude, Shaan, love your newsletter. And I was like, great, I'm not writing it. So I never wrote it from day one.
Okay.
Ben did. And then pretty soon Ben was a little bit too busy because you got to do sponsorships and do other stuff. I was like, Ben, we got to find a writer. And a guy had DM'd us who was just like sending us like ideas for stories and memes and stuff like that. And I was like, this guy's amazing. Let's try this guy. He had no background in writing. I have no idea what he even did before this. Like, I don't even know if he had a job. I know nothing about this guy. But he came on board and he just like has crushed it since then. And then we hired a couple others to like just give him some support. But yeah, they wrote it from basically the beginning.
See, Zach, it's not that hard. He runs
If
our.
you have that trillion mindset.
He runs our newsletter.
Yeah.
So we could grow that to a couple $1 million.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
That'd
Zach,
be
can
really
you get
nice.
on
He said it's
that?
not that hard, so.
Can you get on that for us? Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're getting ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got an ad last time.
We did. We've been
We
doing it
got
for
an
like
ad!
a year now. We got an ad. A single ad.
We're
So that's
cruising.
a start, though.
Also, you
We're
make it
cruising.
sound like an accident. Like it just happened. It hit us. Like, somehow like an ad got in.
Oops.
Let's take it back. You went to Duke.
Yeah, you went to Duke.
I did. Yeah. Did you go there for undergrad or?
Undergrad, yeah.
Wait. So we were there at the same time?
Same time. I think
Wait, what?
I think I'm a couple years older. I graduated 2010, so I think I'm
Yeah, but we were there. I graduated 2012, so we were.
Yeah, but I was just like I wasn't doing anything. So like
Okay,
you wouldn't have
okay.
seen me because you'd be like, "Oh, is he at the game or the party?" I wasn't doing anything.
Okay.
I didn't do the Greek life. I didn't do sport. You did all of it, right? You did like sports.
Yeah, I
life,
mean,
all
I
that.
guess, yeah, sports and Greek life.
You basically look like everybody that went to Duke, by the way. Like, if you go to Duke, like
Cody gets it
campus-
from all sides.
That's not a compliment. That's
time.
not a compliment.
No, because at Duke, you guys like you run the place, right? You were an athlete, Greek guy, white guy. You're great.
Yeah, I mean, not. I was like, I was like, Canadian, too nice, short kid. They're all like, I mean, the guys who run it are like the athlete, like the football players, I don't know, lacrosse players, the basketball players.
Right.
Not
but
the
for
divers.
me, it was like, I'm a diver.
Yeah, but you're like funny
hey,
too,
you guys
right?
like diving?
So you had funny also. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know. And
Were
I
you
was,
funny then?
and I was a computer science, so like major. So that was like, I wasn't the most. That wasn't the most social part of my life for sure. But yeah, I wasn't a frat. I did athletics. I was a diver. But you didn't do anything, you're saying?
Chick-fil-A, that Chick-fil-A that's like
my
on
God,
West
it's the
Campus.
best. That's why when I got introduced to Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, crossword puzzles, these were like things I was like, these were like parts of my day that were like, these are
Yeah.
the meaningful tent poles of my day. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go to the loop. I'm gonna try to get the crossword
Dude.
today, and then I'm gonna.
Damn.
I remember calling my dad.
Nostalgia
I was
hitting
like,
right now. The loop, that's long gone.
Yeah, I went back and everything
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like
Everything's
destroyed.
different. Yeah.
So I called my dad once and I was like, hey, if you want me to transfer, I'll transfer. And he's like, what? Like those guys came out hot. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I know the school's really expensive and I just feel like I'm blowing it. Like I'm not like doing anything here. I was like, my grades aren't bad, but they're not great either. I'm just like middle of the road. I don't have like all these other people doing these extracurriculars and I just feel like everybody went to some orientation that I missed and they're all doing something. I don't even really know what it is yet, but I kind of know that I'm not really like, whatever season the day here. And I was like, if you want me to just transfer to a state school, I'll do it because this doesn't make sense. And when I was telling him this, he actually gave me some great advice. He goes, as I was ranting about it, he's like, explain what you mean. Like, who do you think is doing all this stuff and taking advantage of it or like excelling in some way? And I was like, well, my friend, this guy, he's like on this team, he's doing this thing. This guy like already knows what he wants to do. He wants to be like, whatever in banking. And so he's got all these internships. I don't even know where to do that. This guy like wants to be a doctor, but he's like driving an ambulance in the summers on the Palestinian war front. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't have any of those things. And he gave me some dope advice, which was, he was like, that's why you're there. He's like, you're not there for the classes. You're not there for all. He's like, you're there to be around other people who are like that.
Right.
Because if you're just around those people for 4 years, your standards are going to go up. You're going to be like, I need to do things and I need to have a plan for the summer. And he's like, if I just send you somewhere that's easier for you and you're more comfortable and maybe you're kind of ahead of the curve, you're not going to get better.
Right.
And so when he told me that, I was like, oh, that's why I'm at Duke. And then I started to like pay a little more attention to like what to actually do when I'm on campus and how to take advantage of this like 4-year, experience a little more. But it was, it's kind of the end of the experience too.
Hey guys, we're going to take a quick break to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Mint Mobile. If saving more and spending less is one of your top goals for 2023, why are you still paying insane amounts of money every month for your phone bill? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. If saving more money was one of your resolutions this year, then it makes a lot of sense to switch to Mint Mobile. By going online only and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes significant savings directly onto you. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily in minutes with eSIM. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/chill. That's mintmobile.com/chill. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/chill. Thank you, Ryan Reynolds. What was your major?
I was pre-med, so I thought I was going to be a doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you graduated.
I did everything. Like
Really?
I was like on the doorstep, and then
you decided to open a sushi restaurant instead?
yeah, as one does.
yeah. The classic.
Yeah. Well, I got lucky. I finished all my pre-med requirements, and there was this one class. I don't know if you remember, like Rate My Professor. You
Yeah.
ever use that? Did you use that when you were there? Like, I was at the end. I was like, oh, good. Like, let me just take the easiest classes I can take.
Yeah.
Again, this was my mindset back then. Like, how do I take the easiest road possible?
Yeah.
So I was just like sorting by ease. And there was one teacher who was
That's
like,
so funny. I use that shit all the time.
Me too.
That's
Yeah.
more nostalgia.
Yeah.
And I would pick classes based on that.
Yeah.
That's so
right.
funny.
And that's kind of like, a terrible.
That is.
It's like, It's like sometimes I'm with my personal trainer working out, and then he like turns around. He like told me to do 15. I'm like, oh, he's not looking. I can do 11. I'm like, I'm paying this dude to get a result.
Feeding yourself.
Yeah. What am I? Why am I trying to?
Yeah.
And I've now recognized it, but that's what my whole college experience was doing that basically. Anyways, the easiest professor who also had a chili pepper next to her name, which meant she was hot, was this woman named Lisa Keister. It's true. They had that. That was a feature of the website. I couldn't have been the only one who like was factoring that in. Otherwise, they only had 4 things. It was like ease,
Different world back then.
helpfulness, and like chili pepper or no chili pepper.
Right.
So the woman who taught it, she was a former student. She actually went to Duke. She graduated. She got rich and retired by 30. Came back, and now she teaches this class there. She taught it at that time called Getting Rich. And so we were like, oh, awesome. Sign us up. And we like stayed up all night, went to the library to get the fast computer that like could get in that class right away. Got in. And that's where the game kind of changed. She kind of was doing clickbait. Like it had nothing to do with getting rich. It was basically like, on one hand, it was like adult stuff, like personal finance, like, yo, here's what a mortgage is. And like, if you start saving early, look what happens, versus saving later, like just good, like stuff you should learn in college. And she's like, I don't know what. She's like, I'm teaching this because I couldn't believe nobody taught this when I was at Duke.
They still don't.
And they still don't, right? Like it's just her one class of 40 people was the only people like hearing these really important things. And then every other class, she would just invite somebody in who was like, she started a t-shirt company. This guy started a hedge fund. This guy did this other thing. And they would just come in and they would talk and you could ask questions. But I don't remember what they said, but I do remember my reaction, which was, okay, the common message for all these people is, at the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. Like I knew nothing. So I'm like, okay, I'm like them. I know nothing. And then I just figured it out as I went. And you could just tell the way they were talking and living, the fact that they were in our class, just chilling, hanging out with us. I was like, their lifestyle seems to be pretty awesome. So like, it's kind of an end goal I would want of being like maybe a successful business person. And then the last thing they said was like, also there's no risk. Like, look, you want to work at a hedge fund? Like, look, I'm looking at all the resumes. And at all the resumes, it's just like the top 3-4 all look the same. It's just like, I went to this college, I got a degree, I got a 3 whatever GPA, and I did some BS extracurriculars. Like, I can't differentiate from that who's good and who's bad. They all look identical. He's like, so the only thing I can go to is the other section at the bottom, which is like, what's your interesting story? Like,
okay.
Have you done anything? And he's like, so if you go try something, anything, like go try to blow up on Vine, like whatever, you'll have something in there that will catch my attention, make me want to talk to you. And then, from there,
Vine star.
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
But it is like right before I came on here, when I was like, who, let me do some research on Cody.
Vine star.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you. I only knew TMG, by the way. So I didn't know the origin story. And I told you, I only watched the clips, and I was like, whatever. I think you guys do a dope job with your production. So I always send that to our team, being like, why aren't we like this?
Oh, thank you.
But I Googled it, and it was like Vine. It was like Vine, blah blah blah. Something with Cameo, which I kind of remember the Cameo guy telling me that I think you were maybe one of the early ones that helped Cameo blow up.
Yeah, it's like my best friend that started the company.
Right.
And
Steve or the other guy?
Devin.
Okay.
Steven was in our fraternity too, so I'm really good friends with him. But
right.
They started it in our apartment.
I feel like whenever you say fraternity, you have to be like, you have to like do the shout. You're like, shake up or whatever. Like you have to like say the thing still. Like,
dude.
You got to like still rep it. Isn't that like part of the contract?
Yeah, you got to do that for life. Every single time.
Yeah, you just have to like do a quick hand signal.
This kid came up to me at Waterfront, which is a bar like on the boardwalk. And I was sitting at a table and he came up and he was like, he's a British guy. He's like, yo, you hazed me. And I was like, what? What? And he was like, you hazed me. Apparently I came back for my 5-year college reunion and I went to like a pledge meeting for our fraternity. And I don't know, I made him do push-ups or something like that. And he was there at the bar and he was like, I'm a huge fan, but I can't believe like you hazed me. Right. And I was like, dude.
Also, it sounds like it wasn't push-ups, by the way. He wouldn't remember that if it was you made me do push-ups. It's like
you remember what you did, right, Cody?
I like
push-ups while I was naked and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a lot of eating-based stuff. That was our pledging.
Like what?
Like we had to eat like butter in a hot dog bun, like just a stick of butter. It was called a butter dog.
Right.
And like
call that Tuesday. What do you mean?
And covered in chewing tobacco.
Oh, okay.
Right. Eating that and then throwing up like in our own shirts and shit like that.
Dude,
so maybe that's what I did.
I met a guy who went to college in India, and I was like, "Do you have frats there?" I just like, I don't know. We were saying something. I was like, "Does India have frats?" He's like, "Oh yeah, we have." And he's like, "It's really bad though." I was like, "What?" He's like, "They call it ragging there, hazing," and he's like, "The ragging is just," and you could tell this was like a Vietnam vet. All of a sudden, he was like going back to some memory that he didn't want to go back to. And he told me this game called Fireflies. Can I tell you about this game?
Sure, yeah.
He's like, "We did Fireflies," and as if I would know at all what this is. Here's what Fireflies is. Everybody gets in a room. I think you're naked. So I think it's a bunch of dudes naked in a room.
Okay.
You each light a cigarette. Then they turn the lights off. You put the cigarette in your butt and you have to run around until like your cigarette goes out or something like that. And like, it looks like Fireflies because it's like dark and there's just like the red cigarette butt. And
Yeah,
I was like,
I was really good at that.
Cody's favorite game.
That's absurd. I feel like any story like that is like the myth, you know? Like that should never actually happen.
I think it's real because, I mean, how can you make that up? And also,
guess, yeah.
it's the most Indian thing to do, to be like, yeah, our hazing is like hardcore, but in the like lamest way. It's not like, yeah, you gotta drink and then party and then like go talk to that girl and like what. It's like, no, we all had to get in the room and like, you know,
Run around
put a cigarette
that.
up her butt.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So, I believed it. I believed
Yeah, I guess it's true. I mean, yeah, so
If he was lying, man, did that just pay off. That I like took that story, remembered it 10 years later, and retold it. That would be the best long con ever.
Yeah, exactly.
if he really pulled that off.
exactly. Then you like realized that, oh, I could start a restaurant?
Well, not really. I realized in that thing, I was like, yo, the world is a lot broader than I realized. Like the way I described it is like, I just thought the world was this big.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can do one of these 3 jobs. And that Duke is very common. It was like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer, a banker, a doctor. Like, you just talk to everybody. It's like, what's your plan? Everybody reverts these like, it's like a multiple choice test with A, B, C, D.
Yeah, people like everyone that I knew, at least like all my close friends, they just knew, like they were like, no, we're here to study economics.
Right.
And we're
into
going
finance.
to be a trader.
Right.
That's like literally this is it. Like my friends were trading stocks in college. I had no idea
Me neither.
how any of that worked. I couldn't even start to like fathom what any of that even meant. It intimidated me. I was like, I can't believe that I'm so far behind the curve. These guys are trading already and like building a stock portfolio.
Yeah,
And
the
I'm
guy I lived with, he was
trying
like,
to pass fucking this class about bonobos having sex.
Right.
Which I literally that's one of my classes that I took. Or biology of dinosaurs, which I got a D in, by the way. Like I literally could barely pass that class and my friends are trading stocks. I just felt like such a loser.
yeah. I felt that. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I was like, I felt like when I was on campus, everybody was just playing at a different speed, and it's exactly this. So yeah, everybody had these like tracks, and I also had these tracks. And in my family, nobody was a business person, or entrepreneur. Nobody was an artist, or nobody did anything different. So everybody was also on these tracks. And when she had these speakers come in, I was like, oh, the answer choices are not A, B, C, D. There's also an E. She created a t-shirt company. Next guy comes in. Oh, there's also an F. He's a hedge fund guy. And I remember, by the way, most people don't know what a hedge fund guy does. I still barely know. But he told us a kind of crazy story that still stuck with me. He was like, he came in and he was very observant, which was very different than most speakers. Most speakers stand there, pockets are waiting to be told, like, go. Then they say their spiel. They've said it many times. He was like, so what's, he's like, you're using a Mac, huh? I said, yeah, I like Mac. He's like, why do you like Mac? And then we would answer, and he'd be like, had you ever used a Windows machine, or did you switch? He was like, and then I asked him, I was like, how come you keep like asking all these, like, what are you asking these questions for? Like, that's not normal small talk. And he's like, no, I have to make a decision whether I'm going to go long or short Apple. He's like, my whole year is basically saying, do I bet that, he's like, I'm going to make a $10 million decision on pro Apple or short against Apple, bet against it. And I was like, that's your whole year? Like a decision? And like, I didn't even, again, my worldview was this small. I thought work meant you go and you focus and you type, and then you stop typing at 5 p.m. and you go home. And this guy was doing some different game, which was like, he's making a $10 million bet
Right.
on something.
Mm-hmm.
And that was going to decide if he was successful or not that year. So I was like, oh, damn, there's all these possibilities. There's all these other possibilities. So that intrigued me. That was kind of opened the door, let's say. It opened the door for an idea to come through. And the idea that came through was I tried sushi for the first time when I was 21 years old. And on campus, there's like a Subway.
At Mount Fuji or
At Mount Fuji, yeah, exactly.
No way, was
exactly,
it?
yes.
No way.
A birthday party at Mount Fuji.
Dude, I used to DJ there. Yeah, I swear to God.
I've been there many times. I didn't even know there was a DJ slot. Where is the?
Well, we would
DJ
have like
slot?
frat parties there, and
Okay,
they would
take
like
it over.
take all the tables away, and then I would be the DJ. But I mean, I was there so often. Like,
Yeah, that place is great.
I can't believe that's
honestly.
the first place you tried sushi.
And it changed my life because I tried it. I liked it. And I was like, wow, what is this? Barbecue. And they're like, that's eel. I was like, I'm eating eel? No, oh, no. But I was like too far in. I was like, I guess I like eel now.
I guess I got to start a business
Right.
selling this.
Right, I guess this is my new life mission. And literally that's what happened. I was like, yo, why isn't there a Subway or a Chipotle for sushi? Like, why isn't there just a quicker, faster, like cheaper? Because Mount Fuji's like, it's a sit-down restaurant. It's very expensive, all that stuff. So I was like, why isn't there that?
And this is before like grocery stores were selling sushi in like little.
They were, but it was like, that was just like, I don't know. I never went to a grocery store when I was on campus. Again, my world was this small. Like, I never left the campus, didn't have a car even. So I was like, okay. All I knew was my options that worked on my meal card.
Right.
So I was like, I still didn't think this was a business idea, but I had said that the night before. I was like, dude, somebody should start that. That's a dope idea. That's a great idea. I was hyping myself up. So now, come back to venture capitalist now is speaking at the class. And he goes, okay, enough about me. He gives his talk. He's like, all right, enough about me. Who here's got an idea? Who's here? Pitch me. I'm a VC. I write checks for a living. Who's got a business idea? And he starts scanning the class from like left to right. I'm on the far end here. And
You're
nobody...
like, you ever had eel?
Close your eyes and take out your tongue. I'm about to blow your mind.
Let me tell you about this thing called sushi.
Yeah.
And if you like music, I know a guy who can give you some DJ.
Yeah. Guys, we're taking a quick break to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Babbel. For most of us, learning a second language in high school or college, wasn't exactly a high point in our academic careers. I remember I took Latin. That was my college language, Latin. And I can't write a word of Latin. Lorem ipsum. There you go. Despite taking years of Spanish in high school, I actually did. I don't remember a thing except for how to say I like going to the beach. Me gusta ir al baño. Now, thanks to Babbel, the language learning app that's sold more than 10 million subscriptions, there's an addictively fun and easy way to learn a new language. Whether you'll be traveling abroad, connecting in a deeper way with family, or you just have some free time, Babbel teaches bite-sized language lessons that you'll actually use in the real world. I chose to take up Spanish again with Babbel. You know me, always trying to learn new languages. And with Babbel, it's fun to use, and I feel like I'm making progress towards my goal. Here's a new Spanish word I just learned today. It's meatloaf. Pastel de carne. Yeah, that was pretty good, right? Yeah, that's thanks to Babbel. Babbel's 15-minute language lessons make it the perfect way to learn a new language on the go. Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. Their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective. With Babbel, you can choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you to improve your pronunciation and accent. There are so many ways to learn with Babbel. In addition to lessons, you can access podcasts, games, videos, stories, and even live classes. Plus, it comes with a 20-day money-back guarantee. Start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. And right now, get up to 55% off your subscription when you go to babbel.com/insane. That's Babbel, BABBEL.com/insane for up to 55% off your subscription. Babbel, language for life.
So he's looking across. Nobody raises their hand. Brian Zubek was in this class, by the way, the basketball player. Zubek doesn't raise his hand. His 7-foot hand stays down, right? He gets all the way to the end. And I'm just like, man, we look like bitches right now. And I could tell the teacher also, who I loved her, she was just like, man, I got a bunch of bitches in this class. I brought this guy in and nobody's got the guts. I got an idea. And he's like, all right, finally, what's up? And I told him my sushi my Chipotle of sushi idea, which I'm sure knowing what I know now, he had to have been like, wow. I would have rather there been no idea than this shitty idea that I now have to if I shit on this guy and he's the only guy who said anything, then I'm just an asshole. So, he
was like, that's good.
Yeah, he's like,
oh, okay. Oh.
Uh-huh.
That's an idea. That's definitely, out of all the ideas, that's one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
So he gave me some of that, and my read of it was like, he loves it.
Yeah, right.
And so I was like, I should do this. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And then they had a pitch competition on campus or whatever. So we won this $25,000 contest, business plan contest with this idea.
Oh, really?
And so once you win the contest, you're like, well, clearly we have a great business plan. Otherwise, we wouldn't have won the competition about business plans. Again, stupid. at the time I thought that means it's a stamp of approval. This is a good idea.
Right. And
And
did you
then
write
we-
up a business plan and everything? Like a
Dude, we did like an
this is how much you were
embarrassing.
gonna-
I told the story recently, and I was like, I'm so embarrassed at what we did. So we bought into this like hard work, and like just go all the way mentality, and like that's what winners do. And so when we were supposed to write this business plan, for the competition, I think you could only submit like a 5-page thing or whatever. But after that, we won the money, and now it's like, okay, go do it, go start this business. And we were like, cool, but like that business plan was just like quick, like let's do a real one now. So stupid, like instead of just going and actually like validating the idea, trying it, doing a prototype, we were like, no, let's write a plan. And so we wrote, no joke, a 300-page business plan with a binder where we printed out a cool logo we had an artist make and like slid it in like like a third grade girl does into like the front of her binder. And we had everything. We were like, uniforms. Here's what our uniforms will look like. We're not going to be like an average restaurant. Like we're going to wear chef coats because it's going to be dope for that reason. And like promotions, the way I think companies do promotions is dumb, and we're going to revolutionize everything. And so we just kept
before even doing anything. This
before
was,
just
like
asking
all
the
the things
simple
we were
question,
gonna
does
do.
anybody want like fast sushi? Like, yo, like, would that make money or no? Because the fish, like, we didn't ask the like fundamental questions. Instead, we thought we were dotting our I's, crossing our T's, and we thought that meant we were like hot shit. And so we took that. We got a meeting with the guy who started Noodles and Company, like a big chain, a successful chain, and we brought it in, and we're like, biz plan.
And he's like,
Take a look.
what
Like slid it over the table.
Cool. I'll get back to you in 6 months when I'm done reading all this.
And we were like, yeah, he asked us a question. We'd be like, yeah, that's in there. Page 210. And so I remember, and I knew this is when, but I was smart enough to know that something went wrong. We were like 8 months in at this point. It's so stupid.
8 months of just working on the business plan?
But also like, oh, let's find a location. We got to find the best location. And we used to literally sit in a car in front of Chipotle's and be like, count customers and be like, which location gets the most customers? And like, dumbest way to do it. So it's the right idea. You do want to know where do people go, but like most inefficient. And it was all three of us, the co-founders who were boys. And it was like, dude, I don't want to sit there alone, man. Like, come on. So we'd all sit in a car and just count customers for like a day to like scout one location. To do it like, again, the most rookie of rookie mistakes.
I think this is a really good point because I think a lot of people get stuck with analysis paralysis. Because especially in their first business, it's like a little bit of a risk. So then you think all this time that you spend thinking about it, thinking about how to do it perfectly or strategically or like the right time is productive when it's not at all. You just have to take the first step.
Advanced
Do
form
something.
of procrastination.
Yes,
It's fancy
exactly.
procrastination.
Yeah.
You think you're making progress, and in fact, you're actually not only are you not making progress, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because you think I'm preparing. It's going to be so
The only
good when
thing
we
you
launch.
can
It's going to be
prepare,
so dope.
you can't prepare for anything because you have no idea what's going to happen when you actually
You don't know what the market
lease a place.
wants.
And, yeah, exactly.
So like, imagine you wanted to be a YouTuber. If you're like, yo, I'm going to archive like 2 years of content. It's like, wait, you're just banking content? Like, yeah, I'm just filming it. I'm editing. I'm scripting. It's like, you have your channel live? Did you put out a video? Did you see what people thought about it? No. Why? Because I don't want to just rush it, man. I want to, like, it's like you can talk yourself. It sounds stupid the way I'm saying it now, but now that I invest in a bunch of companies, I advise a bunch of companies, like you see this all the time, actually. This advanced form of procrastination where you use planning as an excuse to not test the hard thing, which is like, does anybody even give a shit about this?
Right.
Do they want this? Can I make this compelling to somebody? And so that's what we were doing. And because you do that, you drift in the wrong direction because you're not getting market feedback. So then when you finally do launch, you're so far away. Like you would have been better off just starting with nothing and launching than taking it so far in some advanced direction. And then you get embarrassed. You've put 2 years in. Now you're in debt. Now all this stuff.
Nobody's complimenting the chef coats.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what happened.
What the fuck?
So I'm in this meeting with the guy. I got the binder. I'm telling him it's on page 210. And I see like out of the corner of his mouth, I'm like, he almost laughed at that. But he held it in, which means he was laughing at us, not with us. So I was like, in my mind, I immediately was like, code red. Something is wrong. Guy who's done exactly what we're trying to do, build a successful chain like this, thinks that it's really dumb that we made this plan, and we think we're really awesome because we made this plan. Huge disconnect, and he's right, we're wrong. And so like immediately we had like a gut check that day. We go home, and I'm like, guys, did you see what I saw? And they're like, what? I'm like, dude, we're idiots. And I was like, what month is this? I was like, when did we graduate? It's been 9 months. And like, yo, how many sushi rolls have we sold? 0. Oh, cool. Like, how much revenue do we have? 0. What are we doing? And in our minds it was like, well, you need to have a restaurant and a lease, and then you need to build it out, you need to design the restaurant, then you need to launch. It's like, no, we need to do something. And so I was like, look, I don't know how to solve this problem for the restaurant thing, but here's what I do know. We've basically been playing house. Like, I'm serving you imaginary tea, and like, we've been playing fake entrepreneur for 9 months. And so I was like, here's what we're doing. This weekend, we are going to make $1,000 this weekend. I don't care how we do it. But we have to actually do business and not just like pretend we're doing business and prepare to do business. And that was the best thing we ever did. So we started that challenge, and we were like, okay, well, what do? We're going to sell something that people want. And like, now we're asking better questions. What's something people want? Can we sell it? Could we profit off that? Yes. Like the basics of real business. And we ended up doing it in this like funny way. We built this, like, I don't know if you ever, like, you remember like Lance Armstrong had those Livestrong bands?
Yeah.
There was like a version that came out that was hot for a little bit. That was like a much fatter band, like a much thicker band. Like, it was kind of like, I don't know, it just looked a little different.
Okay.
And so we were like, dude, you notice on campus that like a bunch of people were wearing those. Yes. Okay. People were wearing those. Great. Let's see. What's that website you heard of, Alibaba, where you can like get stuff manufactured? What is that website called? And we found the website. We're like, yeah, look, they make that thing. That's the exact thing. And we're like, all right, who would want this? And how could we like sell it for more than just the generic? We're like, yo, what if we wrote, and we thought about frats, and we were like, what if we wrote the name of their fraternity or sorority or their sports team or their high school or whatever on it and customize it? Just like basically we're creating a swag store. And, but we thought we were like inventing, whatever, fire. And so we did it. And so by the end of that weekend, we had sold $1,400 worth of these like wristbands. And I was like, oh, and we had made a website. We like hooked up like, whatever, Square at the time to take payments or something like that. And we did all the things that actually were right. And I was like, yo, you know what the last 9 months felt like versus like what this weekend felt like? Okay, I'm not smart enough to put it all together into like some concise answer, but more of this and less of that. And then that just sort of changed the trajectory for the rest of really my career.
Huh. That's really interesting. I think there's also something there, about just selling something, making a little bit of revenue. Because I think a lot of people too think
like the newsletter ad
business. Yeah, exactly.
The ad, you broke the seal.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of how that started. Was like, okay, we have a email listserv going. Like, let's try and create content for it, and then see if we can sell a spot on it. But I think again, like a lot of people get a little bit paralyzed in the start with, like, they think a business is like, okay, I need a plan, and then I have to go out and try and find funding.
Right.
It's like you can do a lot yourself, and then you can get far enough to where you make your first sale and actually start generating revenue just by yourself.
Totally. Like I have an e-commerce business now, and yesterday I was helping a guy who wants to start an e-commerce business, and he's like, so how does this work? How does that work? And I was like, dude, there are answers to all those questions. Like, yes, we use a third-party fulfillment solution. They charge this much per package, and yes, it does ship internationally. You're asking me a bunch of questions, but like you haven't sold one thing to one person yet. So I'm only going to tell you the 3 things that you need to know just to get like going. And I'm intentionally not going to tell you the rest, which I think is kind of like what like a good like if you take the martial arts or something like that, right? Like, they're just going to be like, or you go learn boxing. They're not going to teach you like a 12-punch combo. They're going to be like, here's your jab, and like here's your guard. Like, you don't need to ask me questions about other stuff, and you don't need to think about other stuff until you can like do those 2 things. Like do those fundamentals right. And now you're in the game. And then naturally you'll say, okay, the jab's working, but now I only have that one option. What's the second thing I can do? Oh, now you have this second punch that you can throw. And then you sort of layer on things as you go. So I definitely made that mistake early on of thinking I was way overcomplicating things. And now I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, I'm only going to do dead simple stuff and make it work,
What ended up happening with the sushi place? It worked?
So we launched it. We didn't end up doing what's that?
Where was it?
In Denver. So I don't know if you know this, but
not
like,
in Durham.
We were in Durham, but then we asked the question, like, are we in Durham because we already live in Durham, or because this is the best place to do this?
Okay.
And it's like, clearly not the best place to do this. It's like, well, what would be the best place to do this? Well, maybe
Denver.
Well, because Denver's where Chipotle started, Noodles Company started, Quiznos started. It's like Silicon Valley of food.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you want to get any talent, they all work there. They live there still.
I see.
And like 8 of the big chains have kind of started there, Smash Burger and a whole bunch of others. So we went there, whatever. And I got lucky that we did another pitch competition, and one of the judges was like, "Hey, come to my office. I want to talk to you guys." We're like, "Oh, he wants to write us a check," and he's like, "I'm definitely not writing you guys a check." We're like, "Okay, what? Why did you invite us here?" He's like, "Because early in my career, I started a Boston Market franchise. I was a Boston Market franchisee." He's like, "First of all, food sucks. Like, don't go in the food business." But you're probably not going to listen to that. I didn't either. People told me that too, and I was hard-headed. You guys are hard-headed. But I'm going to say it. Eventually, you'll realize the food business sucks. He was absolutely correct.
Like the restaurant business.
The restaurant business sucks. And he's like, don't go into it. But given that you're not going to listen, here's how you should go into it. He goes, don't sign a 10-year lease. Don't put your personal guarantee on the lease. Don't spend all this money on it. He goes, why don't you launch it like a virtual restaurant, delivery only? And we were like, delivery sucks, dude. And he's like, well, that's the opportunity. Like, what sucks about delivery? I'm like, oh, it's slow. The packaging is all gross. And like, it doesn't feel high end. He's like, great. So you found the 3 things you're going to improve about delivery. You're going to have awesome delivery. You're going to be so noticeable because you're just going to be not like that. And I heard that. I was like, oh, this is like how an entrepreneur actually thinks. Like, they don't just like complain. They get excited about a complaint because they're like, oh,
right.
If I just change those 3 things, you're saying this would like be way better, right? I found a differentiator. So he told us that. We're like, okay. He's like, check this out. There's something called a commissary kitchen. You know what that is? I was like, no. Like, do you know what that is? I don't know how common knowledge this is, but it's like what bakers and caterers use. It's like a temp kitchen. You can go rent it for the hour.
Yeah, okay.
They already have the equipment there. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to sign a long-term lease. And you can just cook out of that. So he's like, use that and deliver it. And so we had this crazy setup. We had a webcam on where if you'd ordered, we'd be like, what's up? We got your order. And then we would like make it in this kitchen and we deliver it to you in under 15 minutes in downtown Denver. It was like, we built this cool little setup. You would pay on the Square reader, which was like really early back then. And so we did all that, but this was before DoorDash, before Uber Eats, before like delivery apps. And so we were just like a little bit early, but it was working. It was profitable but like we were 3 months in, or 2 months in, we were sort of like, okay, it's working. How come this doesn't feel fun? Like, you know, like
the guy was right.
It was way more fun when we were doing the logo and the pitches. Like now that I have to wake up at 4 to go get fresh tuna, this sucks every morning. And like, you know, we're cleaning dishes at night. And like, I guess we could hire people to do this stuff because it sucks so bad. But then we're telling other people to do stuff that sucks so bad.
Right.
That also doesn't feel that good. And we just like, we were just kind of like uneasy. We're like, this doesn't seem like and like, we just had the realization, like, we're only 21, like we're only 22. We can just like not do this. Like, we don't have to go down this path. There's nobody forcing us. The only thing that's forcing us is the societal pressure of like, we told everybody we were going to make this thing work.
Right.
It's like, dude, honestly, nobody cares. Like, just do what we think is right. And luckily, through whatever, some fortunate bounces, somebody had read our blog and heard about what we were doing because we were creating content as we went.
Okay.
And he was like, these guys are cool. He flew us out. He had just sold his company for $400 million and was like, I love your guys' hustle. I've been reading the blog. I've got a new thing. I want some young hustlers. What would it take for you guys to not do the restaurant?
What? This is like a random connection?
My dad had met the guy and he's like, what do your kids do? And he's like, oh, my son's actually doing a sushi. You should check out their blog. And so he started reading it.
Oh, okay.
And then he flew us out to Australia where he lived. And he was like, hey, like, guys, you know, would you be interested in this? We're like, yeah. He's like, well, what would it take for you to like stop doing the restaurant thing? And he didn't know that we were like, dude, we're ready to quit. Like, we hate this. So we just named it a little number. Like, maybe could have said a higher number. I don't know. We didn't know anything at that time. And we named a number and he was like, okay, great. Like, when can you start? We're like, Monday. Like, we won't even go back. You know. So we just moved to Australia and did a business with that guy next. And so that's how we got out of the sushi thing, which was failing forward, which is like a very common thing in Silicon Valley. It's like you sort of like, you fail up to the next thing.
Right.
Because that one wasn't a good idea, but it got me to a better idea, which got me to eventually good ideas.
Where in Australia?
Brisbane.
Okay. I lived in Sydney for a little bit.
Me too. Amazing place. Best city.
I would move there, honestly, if it wasn't like, if there was anything there for me.
What does that mean?
I just like, there's no, I don't know, like my entire life and network
like if
and
these
career.
2 guys come with you.
Please
if you guys move, yeah. No, it's like my family and, you know, all that
Stuff.
shit, you know?
Yeah.
I need
details.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so far, and I don't know. Like, if it was closer, I would go there all the fucking time.
Yeah.
I love it.
But the other thing about Australia, when you were there, did you work there or you study abroad there?
No, I was there. I mean, I guess I worked. My buddy and I like both quit our jobs after I was in Silicon Valley for 2 years. he was in Seattle working for Microsoft for 2 years, and then we both quit when we were like 23 and traveled Southeast Asia, and then along the way we were doing software projects to try and generate revenue.
Right.
And at the same time, like teaching ourselves like Node.js and like how to code back end and front end, so that when we got back, we could like get jobs as full stack engineers.
Right.
And so one of the places we lived for a little bit was Sydney, working on these software projects and learning how to surf and trying to make money.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I bet that's like a time of your life that you I don't know. Do you look fondly back at that?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like amazing.
I mean, it was like a lot of partying, probably way too much. But
Yeah, you make it
also
sound like you were really like diligently preparing for your career.
I mean, like
Nobody goes to
honestly,
Sydney to do that.
It was like half preparing for our career and half like, just like drinking at hostel
Right.
bars. And like when we moved to Australia, it was like, oh, we're gonna be so cool. Like, we're these two guys just backpacking, and we realized like a lot of people do that, A, and B, like everyone in Australia is way cooler than we are.
So cool. I mean,
Like
accent-
everyone is like tall and tatted and just surf like their entire life.
Right.
And we are these dorky like American and Canadian guys that, would just come through in tattered clothing because we were backpacking for 8 months, wearing a tank top that says Cambodia beer on it. I'm like, what's up, guys? And they're like, who are
You're
you,
like, what's
mate?
up, cliche? And
Yeah.
you're like, hey, what?
Who are you? Well, one of our first businesses that we started together, this is Devin, the guy who ended up starting Cameo. And we invest together now too. But one of the first businesses that we started together was while we were traveling. And we wrote the whole thing, back end and front end.
Wait, but
and-
are you like a Winklevoss twin? Like you missed Cameo? Like you were buddies with this guy? you both iPhone programmers? You're like, yeah, I was telling him about this idea.
I mean, I guess I kind of
Is
did.
there like drama? I don't know anything about
No, there's zero drama. I mean, sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh man, it would have been nice to. Like I could have invested in the very beginning.
You're like,
I also
$100 million
could have, like-
would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but I was like so like already deep into YouTube, and things were really taking off for me back then too. Right. I was on a completely different path, like in a different journey, and I was just like really enjoying what I was doing, and it was like really fulfilling. I was, living my dream, sort of like being able to make videos and make content for a living and stuff. That like the thought of all of a sudden going heads down on a startup,
right,
just was like did not appeal to me. But I
Sounds
really
you
like at the beginning
managed
I was
your
like,
expectations pretty well there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And at the beginning, it like everything seems obvious in hindsight, but at the beginning, it's like this is an absurd idea. Like, everyone thought that. And I'm not saying I necessarily thought that or explicitly said that, because I knew the power of an audience. Yeah. And I knew, because I was already selling like merch and stuff like that. So I knew like, this could definitely be something, but like
selfies the new
it's a
autograph.
risk,
Like,
right?
That makes sense.
Yeah. And it just seemed like
but it didn't work right away, right? It was
No.
like, they tried it with athletes. And
well, I mean, it worked for me. Like, that's how I knew, okay, you guys are onto something for sure. I was like one of the first people on it. I forget who, Cassius Marsh, I think was the very first person on it. And I was like in the first 5.
Right.
And it used to run, it was like a Telegram bot. It wasn't even like a dedicated website or an app or anything like that.
Right.
And I advertised that I was doing this for $5 or whatever, and I got like a bunch of bookings. So like right there, I was like, okay, this is definitely something cool.
Right. And you weren't making money off Vine before that, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
So what's you're at Duke, you're like, I'm going to be a YouTuber, or where did that?
No. I was a computer science guy, really just super interested in like, iPhone. I taught myself how to write. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something in tech because I just love tech. So senior year, everyone was doing internships. I had no idea what the fuck I was going to do. My friends were like already had done internships for the last 2 summers.
Right.
And I had gone back and worked at a restaurant and gotten fired. And like, it just was like, I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm scared.
Yeah.
So I was like, everyone's using apps though. They seem to be the next big frontier of tech. So, and they don't teach you how to write iOS for some reason in comp sci at that time. So I was like, okay, I'll just buy a book and teach myself. So I did. And the way I taught myself was by writing this app that was kind of a copy of an app that already existed, which was like you'd upload a picture and it would put a random caption on it. But you had to pay for that app. It was like $2 and the captions weren't funny. So I was like, I'll do the same thing. I'll make it free, and my friends and I will just get drunk and think of hilarious captions. And what we did is I did that, but then the app kept getting rejected because there was so much profanity in it. So I gamed the review system, and I had a local database that was timed
Right.
with all the dirty captions.
Right.
I had one clean captions and one dirty captions. So
Only
the app
after
review
approval,
process,
yeah.
was 7 days always. And like by the 5th day, it would get reviewed. So at 7 days, then they would all release. So then I waited for it to get accepted. I released the dirty captions, and then the app went completely viral, and everyone and their mom was using it.
It's a
And
great story.
so then it ended up getting acquired by a company in Silicon Valley, and then they hired me in the process.
Gotcha.
So I sold it for 60 grand cash and 60 grand equity in this company.
Amazing.
And I moved to Palo
And you
Alto.
got to do this sit down.
I did a Pando Daily interview, which was
Nice.
pretty cool. I thought I was the next Zuckerberg.
It's where he coined the term frictionless.
Yeah, I said frictionless,
Oh,
and
that's good.
that became a giant meme. But anyways, another business that we started when we were in Australia was a gift card service. It was like for $5 you could send anyone in the world a gift card that said "Hey" on the front. You open it, it says "Fuck you" in small letters. And we use this like
But there's also a
printing-
gift card? Or do you just mean
No,
like
sorry,
just
greeting
e-card?
card.
Okay.
Greeting card, yeah.
No
It
gift.
was a gift
No
card for
gift.
$0. And it's fuck you. That's funny.
That is
Damn, that's really funny.
That is good.
But there was this printing service that allowed you to do that, and you could hook into it via API, and it was called Lob, I think.
Yeah.
And so we built this little business, and then like we were getting customers every single day. People just sending cards to their friends and
Right.
people across the world that just say "fuck you."
Yeah. Yeah. The story you just told, by the way, I don't know if have you ever done the Y Combinator application? Did you ever
We
apply to
did,
like-
yeah. We applied for Y Combinator with a separate idea that was
Well, they have that one question that has turned out to be like a really high predictor of success, which is tell me about a real world system you've gamed or broken, like a real world system. And so your story about breaking the app review system, like sort of
Oh, true.
getting around it is
Yeah.
like a good example of that. Like, had this thing that I kind of knew would go viral, but just this one wall. And here's how I got around it, right? And,
Yeah.
And so and now that I invest in a bunch of companies, I've realized how important, it's like, how can I figure out with a higher likelihood who's actually going to be the one that like figures shit out and gets things to work? And it's usually somebody who has a bunch of stories like this. And so, yeah, it's no surprise to me that you're successful in whatever you try, because somebody who does that is going to do the next interesting thing and do the next, like they're going to do the greeting card that says "fuck you." And it's going to be the simplest idea, but it actually works.
right.
And then they're going to do the next thing, and then they're going to create YouTube videos or whatever. Like that is such a good predictor. And I think it's great because usually people don't look for that. They look for, I don't know, what school you went to and whatever else. Or if you're one of the people who do that, you don't think about that as like a really positive thing. Like it's just sort of like, I don't know, I had to do it. Or like, I don't know, I thought it was funny, so I did it that way. And I think people should really value that more, because it like that being able to do that with any system means like the next system you see, you're going to find the shortcut, the loophole, the way around the obstacles to get to whatever it is that you want.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like shortcuts aren't always good, but it's definitely good to like stay resourceful and see an opportunity in a challenge or a difficulty.
Yes.
Not like
Shortcuts aren't good if you see something that doesn't have a shortcut and you're like, I don't want to do it because I'm only interested in shortcuts.
right.
Right. That's the person you don't want to be. But if you're the person that basically looks at something long and doesn't just something that's long and hard and tedious and whatever, and doesn't just accept it as like, I guess I have to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there's a reason that like a lot of the best people are the ones who are almost like laziness is a trait, where they're like, I didn't want to do this every morning, so I automated it. Well, now you're more efficient.
Right.
But they weren't afraid to do it every day until they found a shortcut, until they found a better solution.
So do you look for that when you're hiring? Like, is that what you look for, sort of problem solving? And
Yeah, I
Scrap
only look
nests.
for problem solving because I'm like, dude, if we're doing a new thing, it's unlikely that you've done exactly what we're trying to do. So I'm not looking for, do you have the experience? Because that's what everybody thinks about when hiring. Oh, I don't have experience, or they require 7 years of experience. In fact, when I moved to Silicon Valley from Australia, I didn't do a job search. I only found one company that I wanted to work for, and it was basically this company called Monkey Inferno. And like, it's like goofy name, caught my attention. I was like, what do they do? And the story was there was a billionaire who had started 4 successful tech companies. The last one was a big one, sold for $850 million. And now he's like, what do I want to do? Well, I just like building shit. So I'm going to fund my own idea lab. I'm going to hire 20 engineers, and I'm just going to build it, and we're going to own the whole thing. We don't need any outside capital. And I was like, wow, baller move. I want to work with that guy. So I I just went all in on this thing, and I was like, okay, what jobs do they have open? And they didn't. I was like, engineer or product manager, which I didn't even know what that was. I didn't like, what's a product manager? I had no idea. But also the requirement was like, so I was like, do I fit this requirement? And it was like 7+ years of experience in product management, ideally at big companies like Google, Facebook, whatever. And I was like, oh, like, haven't even used Facebook for 7 years, like at this point. But I sent him a cold email, and I was like, dear Michael, I'd like to apply for a job that I'm completely unqualified for, but the next 3 paragraphs I think will convince you that I'm the man for the job. And like, I kind of went in with that, and I was like, and by the way, like, I didn't want to make a resume. Like, I actually made a website that like shows you, who I am, and the website was just tailored just to this company. So it wasn't like, here's something about me. It's like, here's what I could do for you guys.
Ah, I see.
And so he knew that I really wanted this job, and then I just kept going. Like they would interview me. They're like, we like you, but like you have no relevant experience on paper. And I was like, okay. So I was like, how do I convince them that I could do a good job here? Well, what if I just started doing the job before they hired me? And I was like, okay, so what would I do? They need to figure out how to make their product better. So I would call up customers of their product and be like, what do you like about the product? What do you dislike about the product? Put it into a slide deck. Be like, hey, had some free time this weekend, so I did this. Check out this presentation. And they're like, oh, I didn't ask him to do it. And like, I no longer have to guess if he can do the job because he's literally just doing the job for free, just to prove that he can do it. And so that's how I ended up getting that job. And then
You got it.
I ended up getting that job. That's what I moved out to Silicon Valley. Then got the job the next week, basically the final interview. And then within 6 months, Michael, the main guy who owns the thing, named me CEO of the entire thing.
What?
Yeah, it was like a crazy Charlie and the Chocolate Factory moment where like Willy Wonka's like, Charlie, it's yours. And I was like, wow, like I'm the youngest person in this company. I got no experience. And I remember literally my response was
crazy.
My response was like, are you sure? Which was like, in retrospect, not the most confident of replies, but it's how I felt. I was like, what? I thought I was getting fired because he's like, hey, instead of coming into the office, let's meet at this neutral site. I have something to discuss with you. And I was like, oh man, because I had been just changing shit. I was just like, I would just do whatever I thought was common sense. I was like, all right, I don't have any experience. I'm just gonna do whatever seems right. And I was just like pretty like bold with it. I was like, I'm not just gonna like sit around and just hope nobody notices me. I'm gonna like go for it.
Right.
And I remember telling my mom, I was like, hey, I'll probably be home at lunch. I think I'm gonna get fired today. Like, yeah, Michael's like, he never says serious stuff like we have something to discuss, and he's taking me offside. I think that's what they do when they fire you, so you don't like create a scene. I don't know. I saw that in Jerry Maguire, and I was like,
Okay.
I think that's what's happening here. I'll be home for lunch, but it's okay. I learned a bunch, and that's how I went into that meeting.
Just like solemn, like,
Yeah.
just fine, lay it on me. Let's hear it.
And I didn't even understand.
Yeah, we'd like to fire you from your current job so that you can be CEO.
Well, actually, he started it in a funnier way, which was it was him and his wife sitting next to each other. He's like, Shaan, when you meet someone, sometimes you just know. And I thought he was talking about like their love, and I was like, what does this have to do? Just fire me already, like what does this have to do with anything?
That'd be such a crazy move.
I don't want to hear
like,
this shit.
Isn't my wife the best? I love her so much. You're fucking fired, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, what a dick, man. Like, I don't.
My
like,
wife and I are sick of your shit,
Super in love.
We don't agree on everything,
but we fucking love
but
each
we
other.
agree that you.
But we hate you. So did it go well? Like you?
No, I kind of botched it, to be honest. Like, I tried my best, but the goal was build like the next big thing. Like, if you're in Silicon Valley, that's the goal for everybody: build the next big thing. And like, sure enough, I didn't build the next big thing. We built something that ended up selling. It wasn't like a huge exit, but like it was good for me and the team and all that. So that was positive. But in retrospect, it's like, man, I had every, all the funding, all the engineers, total freedom, choose whatever project you want. Like, I have nothing to blame. Like, I could have, like, the fact that I didn't, hit a home run there was no lack of anything. Like, because if you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, like, yeah, we just couldn't raise the money or, whatever. My co-founder quit or whatever. It's like, no, I had it all. I had like super smart people and the funding and the time and the freedom and whatever. I had all of it. And it just, but I was like 24 years old. I just didn't really understand what to do. And also the thing we were going for was sort of like yo, can you go catch lightning in a bottle real quick? It's like, our goal was build like the next Snapchat or Twitter or
Right,
whatever.
right.
Like, that's what we were going for. Because the
Right.
previous company he had sold was a social network that was competing against Facebook early on.
Oh, okay.
He got bought for $850 million. MySpace got bought and Facebook became the big one.
Right.
And so he was like, yo, Facebook, everybody hates Facebook, right? Let's go for another one.
Yeah.
And so we were trying to build these like messaging apps and cool shit. And
Yeah,
like,
we did the same shit.
everybody wants to do that, right? Because that's
Yeah.
the creme de la creme. If you could do that in entrepreneurship, if you could build the Twitter, the
Yeah.
YouTube, like,
The company that I started working for was a mobile ad network. That's what they did. But I was like part of their like little like labs.
Skunkworks lab, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where the CEO was like, "Hey, let's build the next thing," and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm down," because I was 22. I was like all over social media. Yeah, let's do it. And so we started building where Snapchat's blowing up, right? That's like when it first came out, it was blowing the fuck up. I was like, let's do that for video.
Yep.
And so we started working on it, and we spent like months and months working on this. And like a month before launch, my buddy the CEO was like, "Ah, man, Snapchat just came out with video." And we were like, "Ah, damn, didn't see that one coming." We're like, "Fuck." So what do we do? So then we changed it. We pivoted. We took all the code that we wrote and made it like it was like an app where like you send someone a video, and then you get one back. And
I tried an app like that. It was called Fling, the app I tried, where you would literally just fling a video.
Yeah, we did.
It was like a paper
Ours
airplane.
was a little bit.
And then somebody would
our
just send
name
it
was
back.
a little bit less. It was a little bit worse than that. It was called Clip Chat.
I've actually used Clip Chat. I think I've used Clip Chat. Or there's a lot of apps that sound like Clip Chat and Hip Chat
Yeah,
and like,
yeah.
Kip Cut.
What it turned out to be is just a lot of dudes jacking off.
Right. Yeah.
The app never even got accepted. I don't think, because it was just like, you get, if there's any random video, if that's ever a part of the thing that you're building, it's gonna end up being dudes jerking off.
Right. Yeah, that's like a physics law. It's like Newton's
Exactly,
law.
yeah, yeah,
If it
yeah.
can be done,
Yes, exactly.
a dick will be the
Yeah,
content
yeah.
that comes out of this app.
I think a big question I have for you is, what do you think? You're great at building businesses, and one of your last episodes, you were talking about creators, that have built something worth 50 million or more or something like that. And we actually just had Derek from More Plates, More Dates on our podcast and chatted with him. And I'm good friends with Emma Chamberlain. She's got Chamberlain Coffee.
Right.
What do you think I should do? Because I feel like comedy is like, it's hard to turn that into like a...
No. You started with like, oh, it's hard because... So, no, right?
Okay.
Well, why is it hard? Why is it hard because of comedy?
Well, I mean, I feel like with working out, with fitness, with cooking, these are all like very linear. The path from like we're making content to this is the product that you sell.
Yeah,
because
okay,
it's like
I get that.
Spatula, cookbook, cooking tools. People that watch that shit will buy that. With comedy, it's like
Whoopee cushion. No.
exactly what the fuck,
Well,
like clown, like.
But you
like
guys
a-
are more than
you know?
just comedy, right? Because like you've been doing this for a long time, and you're not just like a flat two-dimensional object, right? You got layers, bro. So you have different things that you're interested in, and you also probably have things that you stand for. So like I'll give you an example. On our podcast, like one of the phrases that like took off was, I read this review from this guy like in Kenya or something like that, and his thing was like, my first million, best business podcast out there, only big money, no small boy stuff. And I just thought it was so funny. I was like, man, this guy made our podcast sound like dope. Like, it's not that dope, but like I thought it was cool. And so I started saying this no small boy stuff because I was like, there are all these things I do in my life that are just like that's just small boy behavior. It's like, I'm complaining about the,
Our whole podcast is small boy behavior. It's literally two small boys behaving.
Yeah.
well,
Behaving poorly.
Yeah.
like, we're now creating like a channel just called Small Boy, but like, we're going all in on that. But like the thing that, if I came here and I was like, yeah, man, the weather, like, dude, talking about the weather when you mean something, small boy stuff, right?
Okay,
I just started identifying all these moments where it's just like, I did this because I was, I didn't ask for the raise, even though I wanted one and felt I deserved one. That's a small boy decision you made.
Okay.
That's okay. You just label it and then don't do that stuff anymore.
Right.
So like, I started realizing there's all these things in my life that, are like that. And people, it resonated with the audience in a way that's like, they like that. That's part of the ethos, right? And I'm sure you guys have like something you guys stand for. Like I asked I texted this guy on my way over here who's younger. He's like 21, 22. He used to like be kind of like an intern for me when he was 18. And I was like, I'm going to do Cody Ko's podcast. Oh, Cody Ko's awesome. I was like, nice. What do you know about him? I don't know a lot. And he was like, I was like, tell me, what do you really like about his podcast? Because that'll kind of give me a good idea. And he's like, I feel like they just cut through the BS, man. They don't like, he's like, they keep it real and they don't like, he's like, sometimes they do like kind of call outs on like influencer / like BS stuff that's out there. He's like, but you just like really trust them because they're not gonna like, I don't know. They're like, he's like, I just really trust them because they don't like do the BS that most people do. Most YouTubers do, most whatever do. I don't know how true this is or not. Like, is that even accurate? Like, is that a good description of you guys? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I think like,
Yes, absolutely. It is.
Oh, okay. I don't
so like, for example, this product is an example of that. What is this? This is water. And
I feel like there's a lot of bullshit around this, though.
but it's ironic, right? Like this whole product is ironic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
And then people like it not because they're like actually think this is hardcore water.
Yeah,
it's like, no, it's just like, yeah, actually bottled water is like one of the stupidest, most BS things that there is.
right.
You can kind of like you can like make a less BS version of that, which is like, put in aluminum cans, not doing plastic. But then secondly, like, well, the branding doesn't need to be like, it's from the mountains of whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is going to be the thing you drink. It doesn't make you look like lame at a party. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's on brand. It's humorous. The whole idea is humorous, like of what it is. It's kind of an ironic product. So if I was you, what I would do is I would try to find a product category that's good. Like bottled water is an amazing product category. And I heard this once and I never like unheard it, which was this guy who's built like, one of these Method soap. It's like a popular soap company. And he built Welly,
I listened to
Band-Aids company.
Okay.
He's done 3 that are like
Was
big.
Method soap like the natural soap one?
And his thing was
I
like,
listened to his How I Built This, I think.
yeah, and his thing was like, dude, if you look at the back of these things, like if you can't understand what any of these ingredients are, like, do you really want to spray that all over your kitchen?
Right.
And you're like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Like, nope, yeah, I like that. I like this. What this guy's all about, And then he did another one, which was like Welly Band-Aids. He's like, yeah, he's like, I go to a grocery store and I just I go walk down the aisles and I look for just a sea of sameness. He's like, so the Band-Aid section was just like, it's all the same. And he's like, so then I'm like, there's an opportunity here. How would we do a Band-Aid company? And he's like, we just kind of stands for like, we're lighthearted where everyone else is serious. We, if everybody else is prioritizing one thing, we're going to prioritize like the other side. So he's like, for example, all Band-Aids are nude colored, but like not actually your skin color, but like they're trying to blend in and just sort of hide the blemish. Where he's like, dude, battle scar. Like every cut is a story.
Right.
So he's like, let's make it like a talking point. Like, let's make it something you would look at. And he tells this great story around it. And in reality, it's just like kind of like how kids Band-Aids just have like cartoons on them.
Yeah.
Like cartoons on Band-Aids. It's not that big of a deal, but like when you hear him say it, you're ready to like, take out your credit card and buy.
I see. Okay.
And so if I was you guys, I'd basically pick a product category that's kind of serious and I would do the lighthearted, humorous version of it. And I would make the whole branding, the packaging, and like the core products, what's inside is kind of the same, but the way it's delivered and what it stands for is awesome. And I think we did this example recently of, what's that? The Daily Wire, like the right wing, like media company.
Yeah, the Razor company.
The Razor company.
Yeah,
that's a great example of one, right?
I had no idea about that. It is a great
example. Do you guys know about this thing?
Jeremy's Razors. Yeah, I remember reading about it. Like, I think I texted you about it, Cody, like a couple months ago. They did something big.
I just heard about this.
It's a good.
Like,
it's
look
a
at that
really good
homepage,
way.
like the previous thing where the guy's on the throne, right? Like Dollar Shave Club was an example of this, right? They're like, dude, these razors, you got to change them. They're so expensive. BS.
And they started out by
Ultra
like going to war with like Gillette or whatever, right?
They came out with one viral video.
Yeah.
And like, bro, that's your
Where
thing.
he's, like,
you
walking
guys
through the
yeah,
factory.
he's walking
Yeah.
through the thing and he's like, my grandpa had like lupus, but he still had time to shave or whatever. I don't remember what he says, but he just says like, humorous things. And that built this huge wait list. Why? Because it's like, it's a commodity product. So like if anybody comes out with an interesting version, I have no problem switching toothpaste. For example, if y'all came out with a toothpaste or mouthwash, right, called
Write that down.
Don't Stank. And it's like, I use Stank, mouthwash. Why? Because it's just, if I go there, I'm going to see a sea of sameness.
Meat
All
flavored
Listerine.
toothpaste.
Meat
Write that
flavored
down.
Toothpaste.
Deodorant, like Manscaped is a good example of this.
Yeah.
Manscaped took a boring category, just added a little personality,
Yeah.
and then marketed the hell out of it. Jeremy's Razor's doing that too. And I think these guys did some crazy number. I forgot what it was. We said it on the podcast, but they did like tens of millions of dollars, like right off the launch.
Yeah.
Just by being like, F Harry's Razors. Those guys are, basically it was like, these guys are pussies for like canceling their ads with us.
Yeah, I mean they have the
For
whole
whatever reason.
power of like polarity
Right.
on their side.
Right.
But
And
yeah, it's
I
a
think
really
you
good
guys have
example
like,
of
the like I don't know what you would call it, but like it's like the dude on Reddit, it's like somebody who's like,
that's an insult.
is it? I don't know. That's a powerful, like, Reddit's so powerful. I would love to have Reddit on my side, but I think you guys appeal to a dude on Reddit because you're not a tryhard. You are internet like kind of native. You're like relatable in age, but you're kind of aspirational because like, dude, he just gets to do this all day. This is dope. Like, I have to go and whatever, do this crappy job. And so like you kind of, I think you guys have them on your side and you could like almost sell out in a humorous way. So for example, when I was at Twitch, I thought I worked at Twitch after we got acquired and I went from a 20-person company to a 2,000-person company. And at first, everything I saw, I was just like, man, they're so dumb the way they do this. They're so dumb the way
So they
do
named
this.
you CEO.
I wish. I love the CEO. He's awesome. But like the most of the things I saw in the company, I was like, man, big company stuff.
Yeah.
Man, it's like a common entrepreneur
Yeah.
trope. It's like big company, dumb, startup, cool.
Yeah.
But there was one thing they did that I thought was so awesome, which was Amazon, who bought Twitch, was like, yo, you need to promote Prime Day. And Twitch was just like, oh, God, we got to promote Amazon. People already don't like that we're owned by Amazon. It's kind of like Amazon's the big giant. We're kind of counterculture as our brand. We're going to have to, push Prime memberships? Like, how do you sell that in a fun way? That's not cool. Already our streamers, like, we can't force them to do something. So, like, how are we going to get them to want to do this?
Is that why they did the Prime sub?
No, the Prime sub was kind of like a little bit before that. But
Okay.
this was Prime Day, which is like, yo, get everybody go buy on the
Gotcha,
store
okay.
today. Like sell, it's like their Black Friday.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, right.
Amazon's own Black Friday.
Right.
And so they created this thing called Twitch Sells Out. And it was like this 80s marketing. It was like, Twitch sells out. And then they brought the streamers on. There's like a QVC looking ad. And they were like, if we're going to sell out, then we should just like, don't hide the fact that we're selling out because then everybody's just going to call us out for selling out to Amazon and whatever, our corporate overlords. Instead, like lean into that hard and make it funny because then people will forgive it because it's funny.
Yeah.
And so
We kind of did that with our eBay thing
Yeah.
that we did, sort of.
What'd you guys
Same
do?
sort of deal. We had an eBay, brand deal where they like paid us to make some videos and promote like products for their like better than new refurbished feature. And we did the same sort of thing, like QVC, like us like testing the products, but made it like super, sketchy and funny.
But the other thing I would do is I would just not promote anyone else's products. I would only promote your own products. It's just a different mindset, right? Like, I guess I shouldn't say you should do this. It's only if you wanted to build a kind of a business back-end empire on top of this. To me, it's so doable. But the big mindset shift I had was like, I used to just build audience and then be like, cool, I got a sponsor. Let me shout their brand out.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm like, if they're and I used to be so happy. Oh man, they're giving me $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 for this. This is amazing. And then I was like, but if they're giving me $25,000, they're getting
And
a
they're
lot more off
making
that.
way
You know?
more, yeah.
If they keep coming back, this is like clearly working for them.
Yeah.
And like here, I'm just a dancing monkey for them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, the way to do this is to basically just like understand that inventory of like me telling people about a product is worth way more than it's definitely worth more than I'm getting paid for it. Because otherwise they wouldn't pay this. Like they're getting a return on their investment that they keep coming back and giving me this. So why don't I capture more of that value by actually being the one who does it? Because not only would you then, like for example, when they promote in your they pay, let's say they pay you $10,000, they make $30,000 off that thing, so they got 3 times their money back. If you actually own the underlying company, companies are valued now on a multiple of revenue.
Yeah.
So you're not only did you get the $30,000, now you're also valued on, let's say it's a 4x or 5x multiple of revenue. So now you've created not only did you turn down the $10,000 sponsorship to get $30,000, your company is now worth $120,000 because it's able to do that much in revenue. Right now, you just keep multiplying those numbers up, and it gets pretty big. And so I think a lot of YouTubers have kind of figured this out.
Well, that's good advice. I'm definitely going to brainstorm. I have a couple ideas. I'm working on a couple things already that I'm really excited about. But yeah, I am shifting to that mindset where it's like, for so long, I was like elated that I could do this for a full-time job and get these big sponsorship money and everything. And with the podcast, it's like, that's kind of like comes with the trade, but also with, with YouTube and everything, it's like, I've kind of shifted to that mindset recently where it's like, these companies are, they're paying me a lot of money, but it's also like that means that they're generating way more than that
Right.
just from me. So why not do this for my own thing? So that definitely it's in line with what I've been thinking about recently, which is good. thanks for the advice. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And
Bring me on.
thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. It was fun. This is like the first time I've actually done this for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. What do you mean? It's your
Talk
first
business.
podcast?
First podcast ever. How did I do?
Like, what?
How did I do?
This is an elaborate setup. For that.
Cody's new.
8 months of writing a business plan and building a set.
Honestly, it paid off. This is amazing.
No, it was the first time
Well,
I've
you-
like sat down and like talked business with someone for a little bit or about business.
You were worried about it. You were like, because I called you before and I was like, what are we going to talk about? And you're like, yeah, it's going to be, I like business, but, like, I haven't done a lot of these.
Yeah.
So let's debrief. Like, did this go how you wanted it to?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, I love,
What do you think the reaction is going to be?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know.
Do you care about that stuff? Like, what's the reaction going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I care because this podcast is still somewhat new since we've relaunched it. It's still kind of finding its footing. So to jump around like this from like, just straight up comedy to business to training or whatever can be not good. So like, I'm still kind of trying to find a path, but I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed talking with you. So that's a win for me.
All right, great.
So thanks, man. Check out My First Million and anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, we're trying to get our YouTube channel.
So
to be
sub to their
big.
YouTube.
Yeah, sub to the we call it the gentleman's agreement. If you enjoyed this section, if you enjoyed this content that you got for free, the gentleman's agreement. The only way you could pay back what you just got, go sub on YouTube. Right? That's the only thing we ask for is a YouTube sub for My First Million.
There you go. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.